Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever and whenever you happen to be watching this Cisco in Tokyo, coming at you with another Empty Room review. And this time we're taking a look at reniuR, devved by Reikon Games, a small unit out of Poland, and pubbed by Devolver Digital with a release of September 2017. And reniuR is an isometric twin-stick shooty slashy that puts you in the boots of Puppy, 2091's answer to Michael Myers on an ostensible quest to save your little brother from Heaven, the mega corporation that controls this region, but more on an actual quest of just basically killing everybody who's in front of you. And the gameplay loop really does support that pretty well. You'll rock up to a mob arena, you'll murder everybody in there, you'll stumble along to the next one, you do that a couple of times till you get to a mini boss, and then you do that a few more times until you get to the boss, and that will wrap up the chapter. The gameplay moment to moment I actually found to be pretty fun. It's really zippy, it's very frenetic, you've got bodies and bullets and explosions going off everywhere. The weapons are, for the most part, I like them. You got your basics, your steel pipe and your reniuR gun. It's a pew pew infinite shot gun, but the enemies are going to be dropping weapons all over the place. There'll be weapons caches that you can pick up here and there, and I like the weapons that they give you. They clearly want you like cycling through shit and using everything that's at your disposal, and most of it's pretty cool. Your basic ones like your assault rifles and shotguns and pistols they're fine, but you got a lot of weapons with like special effects on them. There's one that shoots buzzsaws that I never really got very good with. You've got energy weapons and laser beams and railguns, and I wasn't super great with the railgun either because of the charge time on it, but that's okay. You've also got your usual tech tree that goes in there. You can buy up shields and frag grenades, and there's a really neat ability where it's called Ghost Break, and you can grab people and make them fight for you. I found that to be quite enjoyable. One thing in there I didn't notice on my first playthrough for the stream, but if you put enough points into shield, when you do the dash and you hit people with it, it will kill them. But more importantly than that, is that if you do the dash and you hit a boss or a mini boss with a dash, it will stun them, and then you can get a couple of easy hits in there without them shooting at you, which is really useful because I found those mini bosses in particular to be a bit tricky because they're quite beefy. They don't usually have too many more actual like abilities or attacks than the mooks do, but just the fact that they stay on the screen for so long did give me a bit of trouble. The mook fights aren't particularly difficult, to be honest. You've got this reniuR kill ability where you'll hit one of the directional sticks when an enemy's got an orange circle around them, and you'll jump over to a glory kill, and that will get you a little bit of health back, which is really important because you're very squishy. You'll die really easily here, and that's not a super big problem in good ways and bad ways because there's a checkpoint at the end of each mob arena. So even if you die, you're right back into the action. You don't really feel like you're losing very much progress, but that does have the side effect of kind of negating the stakes of what you're doing, where it doesn't feel like there's anything on the line for any particular battle. For me, that was fine because like I wanted to be in the action, I wanted to be moving forward, but otherwise, like I feel like that does kind of decrease what's going on a little bit. Now, in between the chapters, you'll go to Reikon South, and that's a bit of a story hub. You get to wander around, you listen to people's stories. There's like a couple of sort of side quests in there that don't really have a lot of bearing on everything, but they do give you a chance to explore around, and they'll give you a chance to meet Hooligan, and Hooligan is super fucking cool, so that was great. The bosses are a bit of a mixed bag. You've got Nerve in the beginning, and it's a mook fight, and it's the last time I found that the melee really made a difference in combat. For the rest of it, it's mostly guns, and that was a bit of a disappointment to me because I did really like the melee. I want to hit things with a heavy object. I have a number of them, so the Nerve fight was pretty good. The Traffic King fight was neat. There's a race to get up to the front of it to get to the fight itself, and then it's a puzzle fight where you're going to be knocking down these generators, and that'll get rid of his shield, and you can wail on him for a little bit. So those fights were pretty neat. The Mother and Six Sisters fights visually are very cool. Like, I really love the design of those bosses. I love the way they're animated, the way they move around. All that is great. The gameplay side of it, the actual feel of fighting them, kind of sucks because they're super duper easy for how big they are and how dangerous looking they are. They do have one attack that will like absolutely wreck your day, but you can shield up against it and dash out of the way of it with the Mother fight, and there's a big plank in the middle that you can hide behind in the Six Sisters fight fight, and it just completely obviates the difficulty of those fights, and that was a bit of a disappointment. But the bigger disappointment that I do need to mention is the final fight in the boss, the big boss, the guy that you're ostensibly, you want to kill this dude. So you get to him, and they throw you into a timed mook arena, and if you don't kill the mooks fast enough, like, your head will explode. It's a whole thing. It's kind of neat because it mirrors the first fight in the game. It gives the feeling that thematically you're moving in a circle. That was kind of cool, but like, just the feel of doing that as a capstone fight to the game, and it, like, they're just mooks. They're not hard. It's not going to give you any kind of stress compared to other mook arenas you've already fought. It's just like, okay, I guess, okay. But otherwise, like, yeah, I did have a good time with the gameplay. Not too difficult on normal, and I don't really expect it to be all that much more difficult on hard. Now, moving along to the story, and I do feel like the story is kind of the weakest point of reniuR. Not so much the story itself with its twists and turns and double crosses, although I do feel that the double cross and the triple cross at the end are so close together that there's really no impact to them, and it feels like they could have just stuck with the cross. It's not so much the fact that the whole, the whole betrayal is completely not even foreshadowed. Like, there's giant flashing lights on it. You're wearing the little brother's jacket, even though you're supposed to be looking for the little brother. The way that her announces to you to kill the boss is exactly the same way that Wizard announces. Her tells you to find your brother. It's the same way that the Wizard announces to kill the boss, and it's like, it's clear that, okay, well, that turned out like bullshit, so this is probably going to turn out like bullshit there. Those parts didn't really bother me too much in the end, though. What bothered me, though, is that they've gone through all this trouble to do all this world building. They put in all this lore. There's tons of lore. Like, every character, every item, every location has got some lore attached to it. There's, characters in Reikon South that you can talk to, and they're not super fleshed out, but, like, there are characters in there. So you've got this world to experience, and the story is set in it, but they've given you a character that is a complete frictionless, emotional void. Like, Puppy doesn't care about anything that's going on except for killing people, and I'm not even super sure he cares about killing people. He's just, like, really fucking good at it. But, like, there's nothing in the story, nothing in your experience that really indicates that Puppy is motivated by anything that's going on beyond killing people. Now, I did originally kind of critique the fact that, like, so Puppy's got no emotional connection to this story, and her is constantly trying to get you motivated to find your brother. And I was like, well, but why? Like, it's clear Puppy doesn't care. And I did realize that that's really for the boss's benefit, because the boss is experiencing what you're experiencing while you're doing it. And, like, okay, in retrospect, that is kind of clever, but it doesn't bring me any emotional connection to the story while it's happening. It just feels like this story is, like, should be in a more modern game where you've got, branching dialogues, and you're really digging into themes, and you're really digging into character arcs, but they've tethered it to a gameplay loop and a character that's more suited for, like, a retro platformer shooter where you could sum up everything in, like, 2 sentences, and that's all you need to go, and it's really just about, everything that you can kill, how fast can you get it done, how few times can you die while you're doing it. Like, both of those are fine. I don't have a problem with that type of game, and I certainly don't have a problem with that type of story, but having them together just feels kind of weird, and it feels like the story that the devs care about the story, and it feels so underutilized for the game that they've put it in. Now, there is one thing that I did want to point out about this that I did feel was kind of neat, that, so you've got Heaven, and Heaven's big deal is virtuality. And virtuality is, it feels kind of like what the 80s thought that VR was going to be, where you're, like, experiencing things as they're happening, like, but they're not. It's all virtual, but you're, like, experiencing it like it's real. So the way that works is that they get these folks, they shove them into pods, they force them to experience the thing, and then they broadcast that to the users, and the end result of this is that the folks that are in the pods, the folks that are creating this vicarious experience, are turned into soulless husks or corpses if they're lucky. And the reason that kind of stood out to me, because it feels like such a clear metaphor for the gaming industry, particularly triple A gaming industries with their toxic environments and their crunches, and how like so many people just get damaged emotionally and mentally and physically by that to give us the games that we play. And it does feel like Heaven is meant as kind of a take that to the industry, and maybe even a small take that to the consumers as well, because we are buying these games even though we know that they're produced under these conditions. And because also that in Reikon's homepage, and they're very pointed about how they don't want to do that style, that they're very anti-crunch. They want a very welcoming environment, even if it means that it's going to take longer for their games to come out. And so, like, with those things together, and I do feel like Heaven is meant to be AAA gaming, and I thought that that was pretty cool. So that's a high point for the story. I'll give them that. Now, moving on to presentation, and honestly, like, the presentation of reniuR fucking knocks it out of the park. It is the strongest aspect of this game. I love it to pieces, except for like a few things that I'm going to mention. But start off, the soundtrack is fucking amazing. It's way better than a game like this deserves. They've got like Hirasawa Susumu is on the soundtrack, the dude from Paranoia Agent, and he is an amazing composer. But everybody else is banging out the jams as well, banging out the jams. It's just a really good soundtrack, and I love listening to it just by itself. I've got it saved, in a bookmark. It's super cool. The presentation as well, it is very much shit that I love. Like, you've got like all the pipes and the little cybernetic bits, and everybody's got like, they got the cyber limbs, and it's all neon and it's red, and I love Raikon South is super cool. The game environments as well, like the Creep's Lair is really neat. The Hansa Industries part I thought was really cool. The Hell section was a little bit meh, but like it's all fire basically, like it's all on fire, and that part kind of sucked. I love the character designs in this game. Now the in-game models, they're not well suited to being zoomed in on, but at the usual like the game action level of zoom, they look pretty cool for the most part. But when you actually like talk to characters, or when like new groups of mooks are introduced, and they'll put up like a character portrait on the screen, and they are fucking gorgeous. Like, they are really nice looking. They remind me really strongly of Kishiro Yukito's work on Battle Angel Alita. Like, it's very much of that late 80s, early 90s kind of style, and I dug it so much. There's also, like, there's just one really great pan-down shot when you're going into Heaven, and you're riding your bike across this bridge, and, it pans up to Heaven, and then it pans down, and it shows you, like, Raikon South, and it looks painted, and it looks very much like of that era of anime, and it's like, it's so super cool, and I loved all of it to pieces. I did, like, one little question mark about that, though, is, like, it feels like a period piece. It feels very much like of the late 80s and early 90s, like, to the sound of it and to the look of it, and I kind of wonder, because, like, that's old. I love it, but I'm old. Like, why does that still have resonance now? It's a bit of a question mark in my head. Now, I did say that there were a couple of points that were a little bit not so great about the presentation. One is that the text, now they've chosen like a red font for the text, and usually when it's against a black background, it's not too much of a problem. But one thing I noticed in the lore sections, and it's against this like reddish gray background, and it fades into it really easily, and it's pretty hard to read, and I really had to get up to the screen to read through the lore, and I kind of wanted to read through the lore, so there was that was one point against it. One other thing, and this is just gonna affect different people differently, but there's a lot of red in this game. Thankfully, there's not a lot of flashing lights, so there's that photosensitivity issue is maybe not present, but the red is omnipresent, and it can cause some folks a little bit of trouble to look at it with eye strain, like, for that long. I had a few folks in chat that mentioned that it was a little bit too much, so if you're somebody that's an issue for, that might be an issue for you. Now, moving on to the streamability and replayability, and these are pretty fun streams for me. There was only 3 sessions, and that is a little bit short, but it's a very zippy game. It's action is always happening. You don't get like hung up on things, even places where we got stuck, it never really felt frustrating, and there were times when I could pull out a victory that I didn't think that I was going to be able to get, and that always feels good to do in front of people, so that was really cool. Had some good conversations with Alice, Ruler of Water, and it was telling us about some of Hirasawa's background and like his ideas, and that was a really neat conversation for me to have, so I like that a lot. I feel like a better streamer, a streamer who could split her attention a little bit more and have like a coherent conversation while playing a game, could probably get a lot of mileage looking into like cyberpunk and its themes and its failings, because there are a lot of failings in cyberpunk. I wasn't quite able to do that, but we got to get some superficial stuff, and that was kind of cool. So the streamability side of it I thought was pretty decent. It wasn't terrible. As far as the replayability, and I do think that it does have some replayability. I don't feel like it's a game that I'm going to go back to often, but I did have a good time enough with like the gameplay loop of it that I kind of want to go back to the speedrun mode, where it strips out all of the story and it just gives you the action bits to see how fast you can get through it. And honestly, like, I kind of feel like that's what the game wants to be. I think that's what the game wants to be doing, so it might be interesting to experience it that way just once. But otherwise, like, I don't know that I'll go back to it all that often. And that brings us to the takeaway, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna say it's an orange diamond. Like, it's not a bad game, and I did have my fun with it. Like, I did have a good time with it. I do think the things that it does well, it does accomplish fairly well, but at the end of the day, like, I do think it's kind of a mid-tier game. It's a game that's not really gonna stick in my head, and if I hadn't been doing the review, it probably would have slipped out already. Like, I don't think I would have remembered details of this for, like, what, since February? If I hadn't been putting a lot of thought into what I wanted to say here, I like the fact that games like this exist, and I do think that we do need a space in gaming for these kind of shorter experiences that bring what they've got to the table, and you have a good time with it, and then you're done with it, and that's enough. And I think that reniuR was enough, but it wasn't great, and it was just barely good. So yeah, orange diamond. And I think that has to do it for us here this go about. I hope that you had a good time with this review, because I had a time making it. It was a time making it, and now it is off my plate. So that pretty much does it for us here this go about. From me, Isco, here in Tokyo, to all of you out there, wherever you may happen to be, thank you, arigato, sayonara, see you, and ciao.